It's the first group of the playoffs here at the Hearthstone Global Games. And next up, we have Japan up against Hong Kong to try and decide who is going to join Chinese Taipei in the winners bracket of this group. Welcome back, Derek. You looking forward to this final weekend?
I am indeed. I'm home for the holidays. I'm feeling the festive spirit within me, and also the competitive spirit as well, because we got to crown one of these players as the champion for global games, and with a real upset there, I would say, to New Zealand going down, being one of the best performing players over all three Hearthstone global games that we've had. I don't expect to see them lose straight away in the next one, but we'll have to see who they'll be up against first here between Japan and Hong Kong.
We're going to waste no time with those things and get straight into this Glory facing off against Kin in this first game. And it's going to be an OTK Paladin mirror by the looks of things. Forget Descent of Dragons, Derek.
Yeah, this is the deck that every time we see it transition into a new expansion, we always think, oh, maybe there's...
Yep. There is not a single new card in these decks, apart from Sathrova. If you count Sathrova, which is sort of a new card, I think it's considered a Descent of Dragons card. But each deck runs a copy of that. But yeah, like you said, it's all about getting to that deck quickly, using Hammer of Wrath to get rid of that Acolyte, prevent multiple draws there. Makes a lot of sense. And is that all it is, Derek? Is it purely a race to get to the combo, or does chip damage come into effect with this matchup as well?
It can do to an extent, I think, because you obviously have to bear in mind that this Shivala combo only deals 25 damage, and when you factor in Zephrys as well, usually you're getting up to 29 damage with the Soulfire tacked onto the end. So it's not a pure 30 damage combo. That little bit of extra damage that you can get through can make a difference, but I definitely agree that generally, until you get right through to the end, you are just trying to draw through your deck as quick as possible and hold on to those timeouts, because what a lot of the time this matchup can come down to later on at the end is kind of timeout tennis, where the first player to break their nerve and play the timeout is the first player to not have one when both players go timeout. So it can get very, very weird at the end, but as I said, drawing cards is what you want to do at the start.
I was ready to make some sort of comment about how the players can actually deal a bit more damage than that because of Emperor Thaurissan, but Thaurissan's gone now.
Yeah, of course, that completely changes how the matchup goes, because that also actually opened some kind of tempo route sometimes, but generally, I think as you're alluding to, it just allowed for more than 29 damage to be done in a turn, which was a big deal.
My invention.
All right, well, Kin continues to dig through his deck, but isn't really finding all that much. It's going to start to get to that awkward middle point of the game where it's like, okay, flash of light on 30 health. Yeah, okay, just gotta draw, gotta get there. For Glory, things are looking significantly better, as there is a prismatic lens there. There's still an Acolyte, so Glory has plenty of ways to keep digging through his deck.
Things definitely not going too badly though for Kin on the other side, despite that it looks like Glory has the majority of the heal at the moment. He's got a decent few draw options himself. Prismatic Lens definitely helps that, and I find generally in this matchup the first Holy Nova is the first Holy Wrath is fair game to just throw out at some point to keep the card draw rolling, because as I said, 25 to 29 damage, that should be enough.
Now prismatic lens for Kin as well. But the hand space is the issue here.
Where's your Valdris when you need him?
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, this deck would love that card.
That would actually be absurd.
I wonder.
Would it actually be good? I guess your hand is so full off, and I think drawing 4 cards at a time might be maybe a little bit overkill, but either way.
I mean, I think a lot of decks, especially historically in Hearthstone, would love to have the extra hand space.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, for sure.
Imagine like Togwaggle druids back in the day with. Anyway,
That
I
would've been
digress.
nutsy. So, still up to 9 cards now for Glory. It is that constant problem as Paladin, especially in the mirror, of just not having enough hand space to play all your card draw options. But we could just see a Prismatic Lens plus a... I'm not quite sure whether you go for the Baleful Banker or...
Ooh.
Actually, there's a few options. Like, you could justify Zephyrus, though I think that's probably not worth it. Like, Crystal Smith Kangor is probably not that useful, but maybe if you start taking damage, you can heal back up to the 30 range later on. Or maybe he's got a different plan entirely and just wants to go with the Novice and then play Consecration or something.
It's such a difficult puzzle to put together. Like, which pieces do I need later? Which pieces can I just throw in the trash?
Yeah.
That's how you do puzzles, right?
Exactly. Christology, definitely want that sooner rather than later, because eventually you're just going to draw all your 1-attack minions from the deck. So, very good to just keep the... Well, as I was saying, there is only 1 left in the deck, so there you go. Nice for Kin, just to keep the card draw rolling, as we keep saying.
Like to play with fire? Job's done.
Alright.
Clearly prioritizing somewhat, dealing with the chip damage, because Kin could have just played the Pyromancer after and left more minions on board.
Yeah.
But he wants to just clear things up and make sure he's taking as little damage as possible. It's definitely not the primary reason for this game plan, but I think just a slight optimization. He wants to keep any damage from coming to his face.
Ooh, 2 mana Sathrova. Is that relevant?
Yes,
it
it is
could
right,
be.
because you can use that with the combo.
Oh, it's now an extra Baleful Banker, right? Of course.
Yeah.
Huh.
Interesting. Wonder how that affects things.
I mean, it means that he could have just thrown out the Baleful Banker earlier. Had he known this was happening, obviously, that's never the case. But,
I mean, there's some other interesting uses. You can use it on Zephyrus, I suppose, if you need a few more of them. If you don't think the classic combo game plan's getting there.
okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's true. Alternatively, and maybe this is a silly mind gamesy one, but Glory could go ahead and play a Baleful Banker, meaning Kin thinks that there's only 1 left for Glory, and then the combo can only be played once, and then could surprise use it twice. I'm not sure if that ever matters, but I guess it's something to consider.
I wonder if he just goes for it now. He could go Hammer of Wrath face and then Shavala Sathravar. It obviously keeps the combo alive. Technically it slows down his draw because he's like adding another Shavala to his deck that he has to draw, but it is like, you know, it's a pretty scary tempo play, to be fair. And if Kino doesn't have the answer, maybe it's enough to mean that he can get the lethal a little bit quicker.
Okay.
Just going with the card draw instead. This is the much more respectable option.
Very sensible card draw as well. I'm going to shrink away the Acolyte. Just take the 1 card from it. And again, it's just an awkwardly sized hand here for Kin. He can't quite play that Prismatic Lens easily.
He's got 0 mana Shavala. What are you talking about? Easy board. Hand space clear.
Doesn't seem ideal, does it?
It does not. There's no fear of the combo being rendered impossible to cast, because with Shivala in hand, you can't bring up the Holy Wrath up to 9 mana. I guess he already has the Holy Wrath in hand as well. So sometimes you have to worry about Prismatic Lens disabling your own combo. But in this instance, I think Kin is perfectly allowed to just rip it here.
My hand is too full.
Okay.
And a 4-mana Sathrover. Oh, it doesn't work when you burn one? I didn't know that. Kin's hand's looking really awkward now.
I mean, it's pretty close to just going for the full combo at this point.
Well, he can only play one Holy Wrath ever.
Sure, yeah.
But I guess if by the full combo you just mean with Zephyrus to
sorry.
finish the job. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's definitely what I meant. Thanks.
Let me think.
4 cards remaining for Kin, 6 remaining for Glory.
We got to think about what cards are dispensable and which cards are not. Because, like, Zephyrus into some nonsense like Edwin, I guess. You probably want to hold on to the Zephyrus. Go for the Prismatic Lens just to keep drawing. Yeah, okay.
If Glory could just draw that second Holy Wrath, then nothing else in the deck matters. This Baleful Bank can now cost more than Sathrover, which is pretty funny. But still no second Holy Wrath. And Kin is getting ready. True Silver to the face. But then I guess, oh no!
Okay. I mean, this is okay. You know, he potentially just has lethal on this turn if he wants to go for a 1 in 4.
Both players now only have 1 Holy Wrath, so I guess at least it's fair. So what's your 1 in 4 for lethal here that you're looking at then?
Well, just Zephyrus, shuffle it.
Just the combo into
Holy Wrath plus the Zephyrus, yeah.
Gotcha.
But then obviously if you don't want to take that risk, if you think your chances of winning the game are better than a 1 in 4, which I think is a reasonable assumption at the moment, you could just go with something like the Flash of Light face.
Your wish is my suggestion. I must move quickly.
Instead, just trying to put up a defense here with the Tyrion. I wonder if this was better than the Ooze, however, though.
Well, Tyrion's nice because it's a defense, but it's also guaranteed damage, isn't it?
I guess so, yeah. Sure.
Until Kin plays his Zephyrus and sheeps it, I guess.
Yeah, so we're talking about 1 in 4 on the other side. 1 out of 3 coming through on this side now for Kin. Should he want to take it? But again, I imagine he probably just has slightly safer routes that he could go for. For example, if he just goes for Shivala Sathrovar on this turn, he could take out everything on board were he to play the second Shivala there. And get himself up to 30 health, which means there's no way he can die. Even, well, obviously with the Zephyrus that's come down, he only has to be above 25. So I guess because of the fact that he only has to be above 25, it could go Shivala Sathrovar, and then you don't even play the second one and just take out the Zephyrus with your face. It was a complicated turn.
Just concentration against him. Wow.
I don't know if I like this play. This just gives Glory a chance to win the game. Oh no, wait, but with the weapon that was equipped. Well, no, with the weapon that was equipped, he would have had a chance to die anyway.
Well, actually, hang on a second. So Glory can go Shivala, Banker, Sathrover, Holy Wrath. So it's actually a 50-50.
It's time.
Sure.
If I'm mistaken.
Yep.
50-50 right now for lethal. Yeah, you take that because you still end up with a very powerful board.
He just doesn't want to mess around with any of the nonsense later on with the timeout. It's just coming straight up down to a 50-50. And he missed.
Oh no! And now, is it guaranteed for Kin? No, but it's a 2 and 3, right? Because he can go Shivala, Banker, Holy Wrath.
Well, I mean, he can just go timeout, right? What if he goes timeout? He has then guaranteed lethal. So if he just goes timeout and then Glory goes timeout, Kin goes timeout, Glory goes timeout, and then Kin would have to clear, I suppose, because he's played it first.
Glory does have Crystal Smith Kangor and also a Flash of Life, so Glory does have the means to heal past 25.
But because there's the Zephyrus in hand and the True Silver equipped, as long as Kin keeps the True Silver equipped, he has 30 damage available from hand.
True.
Even with taunts in the way, because the Shivalas can just rush through.
Yeah, good point.
Your wish is my suggestion. I must move quickly.
Wow. Well, he knows that Glory cannot have a Shivala combo now, so I guess, yeah, clearing the board is safe enough. You can save the timeouts. You don't need to start timeout tennis just yet.
Ooh. The Carlos is a very interesting pickup there. There's nothing to rush into with the Shivala, which is a really annoying thing. And Glory knows he has to either heal up to 30 or play timeout on this turn, or he's dead. And he doesn't have the ability to heal up to 30 here, I think. So the only play is timeout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not looking like a good chance for Glory to win this one. He would have to win a very close fatigue game. And given that Kin has that Sathrova and 2 bankers still in the deck, it's just not looking like it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's looking like pretty much for a lock now, I think, for Kin. Obviously, Glory can delay the fatigue for an extra turn with the banker, which may be the difference between that one, extra health between 29 and 30, which at the moment is the crucial break point. But even then, I am not hopeful.
Reporting for duty. I'm out of cards.
Yeah, and now
well,
the timeout tennis is effectively solved here.
I'm almost out of cards.
And as so often comes down to the case in these matchups, it's all just about cost benefit, risk benefit analysis, right? You have to just think, how likely am I to win the game? Because I'm sorry, it's such a obvious turning point where you can say, am I more or less likely than 25% to win the game? But that comes up very, very often in this matchup, where it's just how likely am I to rip the Shivala? Glory said 50% is the best chance I have to win the game, and honestly, I think I can respect that decision. After Zephyrus had gone, you can just simplify the game down a bit and go for it like that.
Yeah, agreed. Whole game ended up coming down to a coin toss, but unfortunately for Glory, he did not call it right. And Kin, looking like he is about to take this game. It's not quite over just yet, but as you have said, it seems solved as another timeout from Kin now, or just a board clear to get rid of those. He needs to make sure his Pyromancer is gone so that no Shivalas can trade into anything. But yeah, that's fine. As long as there's nothing to give Glory lifesteal, that's all that matters.
And then even with the heal up, it's just not enough. Just not enough.
Once again, the only healing Glory has is that 9-mana Flash of Light. He's gonna do it, which heals for 3 essentially, because there's then 1 fatigue damage coming in next turn now as a result.
It's time. It's time.
28 health. Glory. All of the Shivalas that you could possibly want, but it just is not enough.
The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, but unfortunately this is the wrong kind of Paladin here for Glory. And Kin, as we can see, very, very easily able to take the win in a game, as I said, which for Glory, it did not work out his game plan, but I think it was probably in that instance the best way you could have gone for.
Well, there you go, Kin. First game of the series, and don't worry to everyone watching, I promise that the rest of the decks all have lots of Descent of Dragons cards in them, so you won't be waiting much longer for that, as Hong Kong does take the win with the shielded Paladin. So they were very, very confident with the OTK Paladin, whereas Japan have done what I think we expected a lot of people to do and shielded the Shaman. Oddly enough, Moringa has been talking about Japan and Rogue and how he's so excited to see Japan on the Rogue because which one of the players was, I think it was Possessi, was responsible for the conception of that Rogue, and it's been banned.
Oh, you hate to see it. It's pretty clearly Hong Kong's game plan here, I think, was to shield the Paladin, which is pretty weak against the Rogue, expecting a Shaman protect, which did happen, so they can then get rid of the get rid of the Rogue thereafter, which made a lot of sense. I think it was a very strong game plan. But I agree, it would have been nice to see the original constructor of the new, already infamous Apothecary Rogue Death Rattle deck piloting it.
So, which version of Rogue is this that Fung has brought to the table? This is Highlander.
I hope you like my invention.
I had the feel of Highlander. As soon as I saw it, I was just like, oh, this pile of rubbish. That can only be one thing.
Can only be Highlander. Yeah, and it is a similar build to the classic Anubisath Warbringer version of Rogue that we've been seeing a lot of recently. I believe that the UK brought a very similar Rogue to this one.
Yeah, it was, I think, Jambray, who was one of the real players who was piloting this deck and boosting its popularity. He'd been playing it a lot before the expansion, actually. And then when you count in all the powerful new cards that came in, obviously Dragon Queen Alex Straza as the real flag bearer for the new Highlander decks, it makes a lot of sense to go with this version of the deck. You still get a lot of powerful cards. You have the Galacrond package in there, you have the Death Rattle Necroma Apothecary package in there, and then all the usual lackey stuff going on as well. I think it's actually a very, very strong deck at the moment.
I did reach out to Fung and also to Possessi and asked them their thoughts on HG this week. And Fung replied, we just tried to figure out 4 good decks in the new meta, and we tried not to bring anything risky.
That sounds like a good strategy.
Yeah.
Good job.
Agreed. And Possessi, again, he just said to me about the Rogue deck. He basically said, I discovered the Rogue deck. When did he say? I discovered Death Rattle Rogue was strong on Friday, so I guess a week ago today, and I didn't use it in the ladder until deck submission. Actually, he could mean 2 weeks ago today.
When did the expansion even come out? I'm losing the track of everything here.
So 2 weeks ago on the Tuesday was when the expansion came out.
Right, okay.
So maybe he means that Friday.
Yeah. As soon as it came out, he was on it. We're not only getting the actual in-game plays here, we're getting some espionage going on. Corporate espionage between the players.
One shot, one kill.
But in this particular game, we can see the Paladin being able to fight off an early Edwin pretty effectively. Obviously, that's what you need to be able to do if you want to be able to fight back against the matchup, because with even all the healing that you have available, it does not do one whit against a rogue, especially when they find themselves with Zephyrus and the old school already Faceless Corruptor, one of the quickest to be nerfed cards that we've ever seen in Hearthstone, already just a 4/4. And you can kind of see why. This play was absolutely disgusting. There was basically no pressure on the board. Fung got to push everything face, change one of his cards, put 10 damage on the board, and now with Zephyrus, he's just threatening lethal next turn.
I think it's still pretty strong as a 4/4, to be honest, Eric.
I think so too.
Well, 2 mana remaining for Glory to try and defend himself against this, and there's really not all that much he can do. Flash of Light to heal back up to 22 is something, but Zephyrus... Is
One
Zephyrus
of
Savage Roar
lethal
just
now,
lethal?
right? Yeah, I was trying to count that up. It's like 8 damage on the 12, and then the dagger. Oh no, wait, the dagger can't be played on the same turn, so it's 2
Yeah, it's
off.
20. It's 20 damage, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Which ain't
don't
bad at all.
believe that Zephyrus offers you it if it's not lethal.
Oh, good point. Yeah, okay.
So, as much as I'd like to just go in and bank the damage now, I don't believe that's an option for Fung.
It's got to give you some other good stuff though. Like if you have a board like this, does it offer you Soul of the Forest here or Power of the Wild?
Power of the Wild, yes, but that's not great, is it? I guess you
I
could go. You could
guess,
go
yeah.
pirate Zephyrus, Power of the Wild.
That's interesting.
Or
That's not really
Pirate
what I want
Lackey.
though here from Zephyrus. I don't want buffs. I want lethal. That's
Yeah.
the only thing I care about.
Maybe Zephyrus will find one that we didn't.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
it
it
doesn't
does
look
offer
like
it. There you go.
Oh, it does offer it. Okay, well that's great.
Choose soon.
You just bank the damage then.
Yeah, I think so.
Love the feel of wind in me face.
This just means there are so many top decks from in the Highlander Rogue that can deliver lethal very, very easily. A couple of Lackey generators, Togwaggle on the next turn.
Yeah, Lackey
Is,
into Togwaggle next turn, into draw 3 cards that cost 0. Like, Fung
Oh,
just
yes.
gets there soon.
He just does. Timeout can stall for a turn now, but there's not even a proper board clear available to Glory quite yet, which is disaster time.
I wonder.
What does he do? I mean, I think he has to play the timeout, but what do you spend your other 4 mana on? I mean, Thanos Novice Engineer to try,
Yeah.
or Flash of Light Novice Engineer to try and get something for next turn?
You got to think about hand space, I guess, because ideally you'd like to go 2 mana Christology. Imagine such a terrible card as that. Plus Novice, I think, to keep the card draw rolling, but I think you're just running into overdrawing there. Unless you want to deliberately overdraw a 1 cost
Yeah.
card, 1 attack card, sorry, because it's not good for you here.
Yeah.
Should be interesting. Oh, there's only one in the deck. Okay.
Gets Kangor as well, so Kangor could be pretty good. I don't think enough spells have been cast for Shivala to do anything.
Not yet.
Okay, well, Togwaggle into the wand, into 3 cards next turn, should probably do the trick. In the meantime, Glory is going to try and find a way of clearing this board. I'm not seeing it.
Brutal! He's got nothing!
Flash of Light into Zephyrus being active into Blizzard.
I guess so.
No, 4 mana into Frost Nova.
Is that... If you get Shrink Ray, that doesn't make a difference. I'm just wondering if there's any way that you can go off with a... the Prismatic Lens.
I think it's got to be draw a card into Zephyrus being active, or pretty much that's game over.
Sure.
Oh, is that
or
timeout?
timeout? Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
there you
that's
go.
what Glory needed to have a chance here. It's still looking grim.
Move quickly.
Flash of Light able to be played this turn as well. Yep, play the Flash of Light first, see what you draw, but then definitely a play that timeout after. Pyromancer picked up, okay, alright. Potential board play coming up.
So how does Fung best prey on this situation? He could go for maximum development, I suppose, with the Wrapped Golem. You probably don't want to play the Wand on this turn. You'd rather like spend your mana on what you know is proactive board development, I think. Because there's almost no such thing as overextension at this point. When you have Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, the Wand, the Whelp as well, it's just so much stuff. You should almost certainly be able to get there.
I wonder.
Fung doesn't really want to board lock himself, but yeah, trading in this 1/1 does deal with that. No, because the summons a 1/1 Scarab at the end of the turn. Huh. I feel like being board locked is potentially one of the only ways that Fung doesn't win this over the next few turns. Because Frost Nova can, which is now active by the way, Zephyrus is now active as of that Hammer Wrath being drawn.
But even then, Twisting Nether would obviously not do it anymore. And he has to expect that even if he is able to perfectly clear the board, he's still more likely than not just dead on the following turn.
Right, exactly. But yeah, it is going to be Zephyrus into Frost Nova. And again, potentially this board lock does tie Fung up for a turn. We'll see what that wand can find, but... Oh, well, he could just seal a fate. He could just seal a fate the 1/1. Oh! So you could seal a fate and then just play the Galacrond. Is that the second invoke?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. So seal a fate, your own 1/1.
Probably, yes, I agree.
Play Galacrond to draw 2 cards that cost 0.
Or do you just play the... I was going to say, do you just play the Burglar first? But I guess you can just play the Galacron. There's no reason not to. Cool. I got scared for a second there. Yeah.
What just happened? Galacron just costing 7 and then costing 0 again? Okay, that's
I
fine.
thought it would be like a weird flute interaction.
Shadow Step!
That's so close!
Precision.
Oh no!
This felt like a bit of a rope-a-dope play here.
The sequencing was definitely wrong there. Adding the lackey to the hand, playing the ethereal lackey, and then bouncing that to try and find lethal. It was looking like the line. Either way, as exciting as that was, it's just not going to matter.
Yep. There's still not even a blooming board clear here.
Well, there's a Shivala now, though.
There's a Shivala, but does that even allow for lethal possibilities? It doesn't, right?
Not for lethal. So
you
I
heal
guess
out
it
of
doesn't
range?
really matter.
If we were to see Pyro Consecrate, Kangol Shivala Shuffle.
Pyro, Consecrate, Kangol, Shivala, Shuffle.
Did I
So
just
you're
create
not dealing
mana,
with
or is
anything that has 4 or more health.
Like, it takes some stuff off the board. It lets you heal for 14. Maybe it's enough. I don't think there's any other play if you don't go for that, though.
Looks like Glory agrees with you, Derek. Okay, well, the Shivala is going to heal for 40 this turn, which is relevant. That is back up to 20 health. Glory is back in the game. Still 12 damage on the board. Apothecary gets burned.
Alright, so lethal available on this turn. There are definitely ways that it could happen. That's not one of them.
No.
There's
None
no
of
mechs
those.
on the board, so Ziliax can't be Magnetite. Okay, reactive capabilities to take out a Shivala, that makes sense. Nothing again! Yeah, Ray of Frost makes sense to me. You can just freeze a couple of Chavalas for a turn. Like, right now. Ooh, okay. Okay, damage goes face. That's the plan on this turn. I was wondering exactly where this was going to end up, but at least makes a certain degree of sense.
Well, they've prevented more lifesteal for now. Dealt a big chunk. Never mind. Lifesteal's back. And Kangor's still in the hand. What the heck is going on?
What? So how do you do it? Like, you have to go... Because you want to get a Pyromancer sweep on here as well, right? So you want to go Crystal Smith Kangor, Shavala, trade the 2/2 into the 1/1, Shavala into the Reborn, and then play Prismatic Lens? Or is that just getting too complicated? Okay, I guess you can do this too.
Oh, Consecration. Okay, well that's good.
What? Now you can just go Consecration and take out the 7/7 with the Shavala.
Yeah. There's going to be a 7/7 and a 7/1. Oh, but the 2/1 can do it the same. Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
It does mean that Shavala has no more bankers, right? Because you have to shuffle it back here, or it's just vulnerable to dying and then you kind of lose the game. Whoa! It's not shuffling. Okay, he's just taking the risk.
It's vulnerable, and there's an Assassinate in Feng's hand, which we laughed off as being pretty useless earlier, but it's going to prevent any more
All the Shavala's dead.
Oh, well, hang on. There's 2 Chavalas on the board, so he'd need to... Oh, he can eviscerate the other one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whereas obviously the shuffle there was...
What if?
Man. It was risky. Like, the shuffle there was kind of scary, because if you draw it straight away, you maybe just have no possibility to go for the lethal anymore.
Yep.
But this is way worse. Great pick on the Assassinate as well. Without that, this could have been Glory's game.
I'm almost out of cards.
So Sathravar is the last remaining card, right?
Yes. I don't believe we've seen that yet. So... With no Chavalas,
9
what do you even
damage
want it
fate.
to hit? Yeah, okay.
I mean, you
what?
don't... Yeah, I don't even think you'll be able to hit anything is the problem, because everything's just going to be cleared every turn.
Sathrovar into Banker the Sathrovar into Infinite. No, this
I
isn't.
mean, you can go infinite bankers, I guess, but that doesn't sound very good.
Glory with Japan just not seeming to be able to get it done with this OTK Paladin.
I must move quickly. The victory is yours.
There you go. Glory concedes. Feng takes the series for Hong Kong, who are dominating at the moment, and their only remaining deck is Galakron Shaman, and this is pre-nerfed Galakron Shaman, so things are looking great for Hong Kong right now, right, Derek?
Yeah, often has been touted by the players as feeling like the strongest deck ever that we've had in Hearthstone compared to the rest of the field, or like the best synergies between cards. And I'm not sure if I quite believe that to the extent of the exaggeration, but it does feel like a very, very powerful deck indeed. So I definitely like Hong Kong's chances.
We are going to go to a very short break while we get ready for this next game, but this could be the final game of the series. Galakron Shaman has to be swept by Japan. We'll find out if they can do it after this. Hong Kong are dominating Japan so far this series, who Japan just cannot get a win with the OTK Paladin, and now Hong Kong only have the Galakron Shaman pre-nerfed Galakron Shaman remaining. And Derek, you were just saying this might be considered the best deck of all.
I've seen that thrown around a little bit amongst the social medias, the tweetospheres. I disagree. I think that it is a very, very powerful deck and definitely in needing of a nerf. But like, you know, if we really want to talk about best decks of all times, I don't think it quite is able to take the biscuit on that one. But you can see why people are frustrated playing against it. It's one of those decks where, you know, if we compare it to old Cthulhu decks, which is like, I think, a fairly apt description, or at least comparison, between the two decks, where in the old Cthulhu decks, you had to buff up your Cthulhu, and then eventually it would be a powerful play later on. But you had to make less powerful plays early on. Whereas with the new Galakron cards, because they invoke and get the actual hero power, it's like the best tempo deck whilst also drawing, whilst also having insane payoff later on. It's a quite absurdly powerful deck. And when you combine that with the 7 mana Mogu Flesh Shaper plus Mutate, it's pretty disgusting when it all comes together.
Oh, 2 nerfed cards in the hand, Derek. Or 2 unnerfed, 3 unnerfed cards in the hand.
Oh, it's literally every nerfed card.
Oh, so I didn't even see the sludge. Oh, wow, okay.
That's pretty funny.
I hope you like my invention.
Job's done.
Yeah, in case anyone in chat is wondering, these matches were played earlier this week, and while the patch happened yesterday, it obviously does not work retroactively on these matches. We are, of course, live, so we are fully aware of the the goodness that is to come for these players. But for the moment, we're going to have to deal with 5 mana Corruptors, which are pretty disgusting. Oh, sorry, Corrupted Elementalists, what I meant to say. Still 5 mana Corruptors.
Right, Faceless Corruptor is still 5 man.
Yes, exactly.
But yes, no, there's a Sludge Slurper for fun. I've got to admit, Sludge Slurper is a card that I didn't necessarily expect to get hit, but it makes sense.
I hope you like my invention.
Yeah, I think actually when I heard a little bit about the players talking about it, at first I was like you, I was like, well, why? It's not the problem card, it's Galakron, it's the Dragons pack. These are the really scary cards. But it makes sense when you think about it. You know, it's a very, very powerful early game card that was played in pretty much every Shaman deck and was very powerful when drawn in pretty much every Shaman deck. So I am personally a fan of just gutting some of the early game potential.
Gutting. Sounds cruel.
Speaking of cards that could do with a buff, perhaps, Desert Obelisk is an absolutely dreadful card.
Well, he might find 2 more of them.
Oh, but it's perfect fodder for the Faceless Corruptor. He planned it all along.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe not.
But yes, there you go. The Manatite Totem does get destroyed. And yeah, this card, this 4 mana 2/2 rush, or should I say 4 mana 4/3 split into 2 bodies with rush, is also pretty nutsy.
Yes. Both very, very powerful players going back and forth. And it feels like, for the moment, while both players are making their early game, you know, reasonably powerful plays, nothing too disgusting, it is going to be a race to the broken stuff. Because I find that if one player can run away with tempo early on, maybe get a early Mogu Mutate or an early Dragons pack, that is when things can run away in the early game in this matchup. Generally, though, you are looking at a slightly longer game, long-term game plan, where you're trying to get down the Galakrons and replay it, obviously, with the Shuttlehawk, and then go for lethal from there.
I wonder.
Oh, so okay, so a bit of a clunky hand for Fung here. Obviously, Farsight and Valgoth all work so well together. You kind of want to save one for the other.
Yeah, the
And
problem is, I
Farsight
think,
doesn't quite fit with this.
Yeah, you don't want to overload on this turn, but the Sludge Slurper is just very, very nicely positioned on this turn to smooth out your mana that little bit more. So Fung in the end does decide to just hero power, which means, of course, we are looking at less development on this turn, but it sets up for Vargoth Farsight on the following turn without the overload, which I think, again, as I said, is probably that little bit more important because it is just that race to Galakrond. Or, I suppose, Dragon's Pack as well. Just any really, really powerful play is what they're trying to put together now.
I wonder.
Possessy can pretty much do whatever he likes with the board, though. Mogu Flesh Shaper obviously still very expensive for the time being, but you know, Shield of Galakrond seems fine. Deals with the 0/2, no problem. I guess he's sort of playing around his opponent's Mogu Flesh Shaper and not wanting to put too much down at the same time, which is where it gets interesting.
There is little time.
Alright, Faceless Corruptor does become a possibility on this turn if you're afraid of your opponent dominating the board too heavily, because Fung does obviously have to consider the possibility of a
What to do?
Galakrond, on the following turn from Possessy. In which case, you know, developing preemptively on this turn would be able to help him deal with the 8/8s that little bit more. But I wonder if then the extension of that argument is Galakrond is so powerful if it comes down the following turn that the only way he could fight back is his own one, in which case you just want to get drawing as quick as possible.
On wings of evil. There is little time.
Dragonmaw Scorcher is quite nice at dealing with these 2-1 rush minions and does quite a bit of work on the board. Now, obviously you don't want to play it right now because of your own minions with 1 health, but it's going to find use at some point.
Mm-hmm.
All right, first Galakrond.
If Galakrond were to be played first, Mogu would not be playable on the same turn. And, you know, you do have to consider the possibility of just holding it back, because rushing an 8/8 into a 5/3 doesn't sound amazing, I suppose. But at the same time, it's Galakrond. It's
Sounds
absurd.
pretty good.
Yeah, it sounds pretty nuts.
Value trading against 2 5/2s, like, or not even, because obviously the 2-1 is one of the 5/2s. So sounds pretty good, and it leaves Fung with very little to do except, I guess, Vargoth into Farsight, which is not going to be dealing with this board.
Yeah, I like this play a lot. Not a particularly inventive one. It's Galakrond on 7. We're all used to it now. Definitely the best.
Remember when Dr. Boom on 7 used to be the play?
How innocent we once were. Well, I mean, actually, if we look right back, then, like, if you imagine the old, what was it, Blood Reaver Gul'dan, where it would summon back 7 Void Lords and a bunch of Doomguards as well, and that's the original power, definitely.
Right, sure. When I was actually talking about original Dr. Boom on 7.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, like way back when
Oh,
summoning
wow, yeah.
a 7/7 with 2 1/1s was the best thing you could possibly do on turn 7.
Jeez, yeah. Would that card even be played now?
I doubt it.
What if?
I guess it'd be pretty good in Shadowhawk Shaman to get the boom blocks again.
Sure.
But for now, we are looking at, of course, getting these 5/6s out the way, trying to give yourself a nice big tasty Mogu as well. Or that as well, if that works. Oh, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah. I would say that many rogues would agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. We know exactly what Faceless Corruptor with +3/+3 can do.
There you go. That's what because Japan got their rogue banned. They figured they'd bring this into their Shaman instead.
And while Shaman has obviously fantastic mid-game potential, wow, in terms of fighting back on the board, when it comes to situations like this, I think Fung is maybe just left with no recourse to pull this back. Even Vargoth Dragon's Pack, I don't think will be quite enough to get the job done.
It's definitely not a bad start, but unfortunately the Dragon Pack just dies to the 9/6 and the 8/8s for the most part. The Shield of Galakrond plus the 2/1 will deal with the 4th one. Oh, and Mogu now drawn for Possessi as well. Yikes.
There's no way that Possessi can force his Anubisath to die, because that'd be quite nice to go with the Faceless Corruptor just to push a bit more damage through to face. He's not looking at lethal this turn, is he? Trade.
I really don't think so.
Mogu Corruptor. It's pretty close actually, I think, but yeah, not quite.
Can Possessi have the Octosari die first and then buff the entire hand?
So close.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
Oh, this card is just disgusting.
Yeah, everything in this deck is absolutely filthy. What possible recourse did Fung have to swing this one back after the Galakrond was found? The answer, not a whole lot. Maybe with some of the newer versions of the decks that we've been seeing with Zentimo and Hex, plus the Witch's Brew, maybe then Fung would have been able to deal with the deck, clear the big minions off the board. But it does appear that in this particular instance, he is just left completely and utterly dead, because that was absurd.
Japan take their first win of the series. They are beginning potentially a reverse sweep, but they've still got so much work to do. They have to win with their Pirate Warrior and also their OTK Paladin up against the Galakrond Shaman. Darren, what do you say for Japan's chances here?
I think they're still at a pretty big disadvantage, but we'll have to see. This Pirate Warrior, while definitely fallen out of favor somewhat since the matches were recorded earlier this week and submitted even earlier than that, actually last weekend for the Hearthstone Global Games, I think it's still got a decent amount of power. You know, we can see what the deck can do with just early game tempo plays, the Bloodsworn Mercenary being ridiculously powerful, and just good old face damage can just win a game every now and then. And that's not the worst start I've ever seen.
Nope. Seems perfectly reasonable on both, well, no, for Possessi. And not good at all for Kin just yet. Have to see if the Galakrond Shaman can fix itself, but this is not the hand that they want. And Kin needs to find a way to defend himself against this onslaught that's about to come his way.
Someone's gotta lead the charge.
I hope you like my invention.
Yeah, that looks like a pretty juicy mutate there for Kin. I think I'd like to see that come down.
Dragon be hungry.
One of the reasons why mutate is such a absurdly powerful card of just how many uses it has in this deck.
Absolutely.
It's so flexible.
It's so versatile. Yeah, flexible, exactly. And nowadays in Hearthstone, you don't tend to find these decks run out of value that often. Whereas maybe in the past, you'd think, oh, do I really want this mutate that might be useless a lot of the time? Nowadays, you just don't care. Like, Kin has so many ways of generating more resources.
Well, that's maybe what some of the players were like wondering as to, you know, how they were hypothesizing this deck slipped under Blizzard's radar, and maybe the build hadn't been found with all the card draw. Because like you said, if the deck wasn't running Mana Tide and Novice and Farsight and all these card draw options, maybe then we'd end up in a situation where they thought, you know, the deck just runs out of stuff too quickly and can't actually...
the Vargoth combos are pretty
gas.
devastating.
They are nuts. Vargoth was a very clever inclusion in the deck.
But now Possessi is trying to work out what form of damage he would like to put on the board. I think we may have some sort of spectator bug going on here, as it says Earthshock is playable right now.
Oh yeah, right you are. Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Oh, speaking of Earthshock being playable.
I don't think that's going to get picked up. Wow. Actually goes with a 7 and a 7/7. Okay.
Yeah, the Draconid is actually a very surprisingly good card. Like, I rated it quite highly when I first saw it. I thought, like, this is a good card. Maybe doesn't quite make the cut in a lot of deck lists, which definitely feels like is about on the money. It's not seeing played. But when you get the option to discover it, it's a very, very strong card because it's incredibly defensive, but also just puts a lot of pressure on your opponent at the same time.
I'm tied into the Corrupt Elementalist. That's alright. Kin's hand is coming together now with the Corrupt Elementalist into Mogu Flesh Shaper, into Dragon's Pack. Things are looking like he may have the defensive tools required, but South Sea Captain is going to put a lot of damage on the board right now.
Yeah, I guess. Buffing up a couple of the minions in play. The problem is that Shaman just clears this up so beautifully again with the Corrupt Elementalist into the Mogu. Most of the attack here is just cleaned off straight away.
Yep.
I suppose there'll be some consideration for Kin to, as to whether he tries to save his Dragon's Pack to go with the Electra later on, because if he can get that off, that's basically just good game on the spot.
Right.
But obviously that's a bit risky saving it for all that time. 7 health on the Mogu, that makes sense. Also worth thinking about, I guess, the fact that Galakron already summons 4/4s, which is pretty underwhelming compared to what we're used to with Galakron Shaman, of course. But if he was just to go Kronks into Galakron on 6 and 7, that's not bad. Gaining him the 5 health and winning back the board, I think that's a very valid line that you should consider.
What now?
Yeah, I think that while Greenskin is very tempting here, Corruptor has to just be the play. Goes nice and wide, which Shaman, to be fair, does kind of struggle with sometimes.
Yeah, cleans up the board nicely, does leave Possessi in a very aggressive position. And honestly, Kin's hand is still struggling just a little bit. If he can just draw Galakron, just to put this together, or another Corrupt Elementalist would be fantastic this turn. Okay, Sludge Slurper isn't bad at all.
I suppose. And yeah, I think the main thing is this just gives him a very, very juicy way to fill out his mana over the next couple of turns until he goes Electra Dragon's Pack. That looks like the game plan. And it's a good one. Possessi definitely going to be happy that he value traded with the second of the Faceless Corruptors. Gets a very, very nice looking trade here up into the Shield of Galakron. And from there, it's really just about transitioning all this hand size advantage that he's gained, card advantage is what a normal person would say, over the course of the game, into damage. He just wants to get all of this onto the board and close things out before big Dragon's Pack plans come down or Galakron plays come down.
Well, Skybarge is a very interesting draw. Although most of the pirates have been cast, there's Skybarge into Amalgam, Captain Greenskin to follow up, and plenty more ways of drawing and generating more pirates. So Possessi does have the means to get there. It's just a question of whether Kin can get his powerful tools to defend himself in time.
Yeah. And at the moment, I'm saying... I actually don't know. There's not that much damage in Possessi's hand, relatively speaking, in terms of like actual burst damage. So as soon as Possessi is able to lock down the board, I think he should be able to just win on the spot. But when situations like this occur with a missed Kobold Lackey, maybe that's the slight window that is needed for Kin to be able to just lock down the game. That's a big deal, man.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Right, okay. So Dragon's Pack into Rush Lackey doesn't really do all that much.
So let's look at, like, if we look at obvious breakpoints, I think it might be getting to the point where saving Dragon's Pack for Electra is too slow, because he's just dead to Leroy if he plays the Kronks, which is too scary, I think.
But then another option was play Sludge Slurper, give it Rush, and deal with the Captain Greenskin that way and just save it for the next turn.
Yeah.
This works nicely. It's a value trade. Clear most of the board. You've got Taunts up now. Kin really just needs to free himself up a turn so that he can play Galakrond, or Kronks and then Galakrond, and then really he'll be looking much, much better.
And I think the reason I actually like this play that I didn't realize as well is that Sludge Slurper obviously overloads him for next turn, so he wouldn't be able to play the Electra plus Dragon's Pack then either if he played the Sludge Slurper. So I think all things considered, this is, you know, it's a bit of a concession. You would like to have just locked out the game with Electra Dragon's Pack, but this does a good enough job anyway.
What now?
No tomb can hold me. No tomb can hold me.
And back to the face. Skybarge gets played. Kin doesn't have a clear-cut way of removing it. Okay.
Well, that looks pretty good. Kronks to draw Galakrond is okay. Kronks to play a Devastation after Galakrond is absurd, as we all know.
These are only 4/4s, but that's not the end of the world. There's no claw, it doesn't matter. The 1/1 plus 4/4 will value trade into that Skybarge. And now, Possessi has got some work to do. He's got some work to do pretty fast. Kronks now summoning an 8/8 with Taunt is very strong. Kronks dealing 5 and healing 5 is an okay method of defending himself.
Yeah. Without the Kronks, you know, Possessi could still be looking at a chance to victory this game. Just double Corkron this turn, or get in the upgrade on this turn so you can get more swings through. It's a lot of burst damage now. But that extra 8/8 Taunt might just be too much. I mean, it's lethal next turn that he's got available with Leroy Corkron plus the Kobold Lackey. He just needs to pray hope upon hope that nothing can come out on top of that.
It's got to be a big fat Taunt, hasn't it?
I think so. You're not really that afraid of damage over the top of that, so healing to your own hero is obviously a lot less important. And an 8/8 Taunt also helps you kill your opponent very quickly.
So, I mean, Kin still has to make these trades here. That's vital because he knows there's lots of charges in Possessi's deck. We can see Leroy and Corkron both ready to go, both available to play next turn, but it's not going to be enough. Corkron plus the weapon would deal with the 8/8, and then Leroy would go face for 6. That's 4 off lethal at the moment.
It's so close!
It is so close.
Oh, man. Right, so you got to attack first, I agree. Because you got to chunk through this big boy one way or another. Oi, oi, oi.
Vargoth doesn't do anything right now. There's no way to put a taunt up at the moment for Kin, so he's just almost dead.
He's very nearly dead. We are looking at Kobold Lackey lethal here. Or, I guess, Ethereal Lackey maybe lethal.
What if? The storm approaches.
He's just trying to work out, is there anything I can do? Is there any way I can get the guaranteed 2-turn lethal? And yeah, it is looking like a 2-turn lethal. But that's no good if Possessi wins this turn. Leroy is 6, the weapon is another 2, that's 8. Kobold Lackey, like you said, would do it. That's not going to do it.
It all goes down to this.
Kobold Lackey or Ethereal Lackey. Draconic Lackey, I don't believe there's a dragon that can deal 2 damage right now.
Yeah, I don't think there is either. Nazari can't be played and would be kind of bad, obviously, as well, because even though it keeps him alive. Deathwing!
Alexstrasza? Wait, oh! You're right, no, Deathwing! Oh my goodness.
Just resets the board, right?
Um,
Or does it not? If he goes, attacks into the 4-2.
Depends on the order. Kronks has to be hit last, right?
No, it doesn't. It's a full clear. If he attacks into the 4-2.
Oh, sorry, if he uses... Right, of course.
Oh, no, wait, he already has. Sorry, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, so if Deathwing hits Kronks and then the 4-2, and then either of the other minions, then the 4th minion would survive. In fact, I think regardless of what happens, if it hits the 6-6,
Yeah.
anything other than last, which it has done, something is going to survive.
Oh.
It's going to be Vargoth.
Alright, that's not the worst.
No.
He's alive.
Ooh, that's a lot of 2-1s going to be hitting the board this turn. And it prevents the weapon from swinging in, which does actually prevent lethal again.
That's pretty insane. It had to be exactly that or another taunt. Oh my god, this game, man. How does Shaman keep doing it?
I mean, when they print cards like Evolve and Mogu, that's how Shaman keeps doing it.
Yeah. Hanging on by the skin of his teeth here. Now, of course, we're looking at Possessi having to trade in the Leroy just to stay alive from his perspective. Oh. No, even then he'd still be dead. Yeah. It's got to be the dragon.
And that is... Oh no, the armor up isn't now means it's not lethal, right?
He's alive. Again.
11 damage on board,
not.
but Faceless Corruptor will actually put a stop to this game.
Wow. That was a pretty nutty series of top decks for Kin at the end. He was very, very likely to have lost that game if things hadn't come in a very specific order for him. So I definitely feel for Possessi and Japan there. But it does mean that it's going to be Possessi and Glory dropping down to the lower bracket, and Kin and Feng for Hong Kong moving up to face Chinese Taipei in the winners bracket to find out who are going to be our 2 players going through to the top 4 to be played out on Sunday.
Absolutely very exciting. Global Games 2019 is racing to its conclusion, and we do now have the 2 teams in the winners bracket in playoff group A, and I believe they will be facing off next to decide which of those 2 teams will be jumping straight to finals day, which will be this Sunday. And then after that, we're going to go to the losers bracket. So we have still got plenty to get through. We're not going to waste any more time. We're going to go to a very short break. But when we come back, it'll be the winners bracket to determine the first team to make it to the final day.